This build changed the way I played Destiny 2, and then Bungie changed it, so now I have to change too. Let's figure it out together, shall we? Alright, I'm Gio, and welcome into another video. A while back I released definitely my most popular video to date, and that was a solo build on Titan with BONK hammer and all that sort of jazz. Recently, however, Bungie's nerfed Solar Titan, so it's not really that relevant anymore, so let's jump back into it and rework it and see how we go. It still works, but let's see if we can do something different with it this time. So with the release of Season 23, Season of the Wish, Bungie broke out their own hammer and laid siege to our favorite Solar BONK Titan build, and it's changed a little bit now. Of the nerfs they implemented, the main one being that now, picking up your hammer no longer immediately refreshes your cooldown. You have to wait 1.4 seconds before you can use it again, which is a bit of a pain, but we can work around it. If you want to check out the full list of buffs and nerfs, I'll link it down below. Everything will be down there so you can read through. I'm not going to go through it all right now, but it's there. So Gio, what do we do now, I hear you ask? I'm going to have to switch to Warlock. However will I go on? Don't do anything too rash, especially don't change to Hunter. Just don't do that. I think I may have a solution for you. Is it as busted as the old one? Nah, but I mean, that's kind of the point, right? That's why Bungie brought the hammer down, because that was kind of a busted build. You may remember, in that first build video, I suggested a bunch of exotics to pair nicely with it. And one of them was Sanc Enclosure, which I didn't give a lot of thought to, a lot of testing to at the time, mostly because it just wasn't that good. However, in the same update that brought the nerfs to Hammer Titan, brought buffs to Sanc Enclosure. So I thought, maybe this is what it needs to tip it over the edge. If you're unfamiliar with what Sanc Enclosure actually does, I'm not surprised, because it's not really that popular of an exotic. The exotic perk's Pheromatic Trigger states that powered melee final blows unleash a damaging explosion. Finishes and final blows against more powerful targets increase the radius and damage of the explosion. So based on the reading I've done, and from my own testing, of which I'd probably trust the reading more than the doing, I don't know. The radius of the explosion goes from a 10-meter radius with a minor kill up to a 15-meter radius with a elite or boss. Is it? Yeah. Now, there is a short cooldown between how often you can trigger these explosions, which is about a second, I believe. So, you know, it's not going to go off constantly. It'd just be kind of broken at that point. The way that the finishes work is that if you finish something and cause it to explode, it basically bumps up one tier of explosion damage. So if you finish a minor combatant, it's basically a major combatant. Or if you finish a major, it's an elite, that sort of thing. Now here's the kicker, and why the Severance buff is so nice, and in particular a great choice for Solar Titan. Notice here it says powered melee. Well, as we learned last time, as long as you have Roaring Flames active, even without your hammer, your fists still count as a powered melee. Just keep flooring rays. Just keep those Roaring Flames up, and you can just go and bop them in the face. As far as the details of the build go, not much has changed from the original build, so we'll run through it kind of quickly. For grenade and stuff, choose what you like. I usually run Thermite Grenade because it double triggers a couple of things. Use healing if you need healing grenade, but I don't think it's that necessary. Maybe if you're doing sort of harder content like Solar Flawless dungeons and stuff like that, but realistically, I think in normal content you'll be fine. For melee, I'm using BONK hammer. You probably can go with any of the other melees as well. I say other melees. Shoulder charge, that's all there is. If you have tried it, let me know, because I know the shoulder charge has been getting a lot of attention with Peregrine Greaves and their buff recently, so it might be a little bit fun with the explosions as well. As for things with like jump and barricade, you choose yours. I go for towering and catapult jump, just because that's how I run it. So in the super, typically I'll be running throwing hammers, but if there's anything where I need to stay a bit of distance or stand in a certain spot, burning maul is always a good way to go. For our aspects and fragments, we'll start with the aspects because they're kind of basic. You know, we're going with Solar Invictus and Roaring Flames and smush them together. That's all you need. Right, now, Consecration is good. It's not quite what I was looking for with this build, so I might try it down the line, just kind of tweak a few things here and there for Consecration and see how it comes out. I'm quite good. First up is Ember of Torches. Now, it's kind of like the plug and play of this build. Powered melee final blows make you radiant and your enemies... make you and your allies radiant, which is always really good. Kind of a no-brainer. Next up is Ember of Ashes. Now, Ember of Ashes, we just apply more Scorch stacks to everything, which obviously we're going to be putting Scorch stacks on everything anyway, so we might as well get more. For the third one, we'll be running Ember of Empyrean. If you find you're not struggling to keep up your radiant stacks, then you can forego Ember of Empyrean if you like, because all it does is extend your durations. But it does help when you've got solar weapon final blows that extend it as well. It's always nice. For the last slot, I've been using Ember of Char, so our ignitions spreads Scorch stacks to nearby enemies, which, explosions, Scorch, Scorch, explosions, explosions, Scorch. It's an infinite loop. It's quite nice. I wanted to include, I don't usually do this, I wanted to include artifact mods in this as well, because there's some quite good ones this season, with it being sort of solar focused, I guess, or more focused than previous seasons. In column 2, you want to grab Flame, Fiber, and Freeze to combine solar, strand, and stasis mods. Honestly, they should have called it as well as Killing Trigger, so you apply Scorch to enemies with solar weapons. Well, while you're radiant, we're going to be radiant a lot, so it's a good place to go. For the column 1 ones, just grab whatever mods you need for whatever champions you're running against. So just grab a few of those. In column 3, you want to grab Torch, which is you apply more weapon damage to enemies that have been debuffed by by strand or stasis, and you'll see why soon. Just hear me out. Here, I'm also going to grab Flint Striker as well, so we have another way of becoming radiant, just in case we lose our hammer or something happens like that. In column 4, you want to grab Revitalizing Blast to weaken champions. It's fairly straightforward, no-brainer, right? This one's a bit difficult though, follow with me. Oddly enough, we're going to grab Unraveling Orbs for this, so that when you pick up an orb, you grant your stasis weapons Unraveling Rounds, which always is a good thing anyway, but you've got to be using a stasis weapon. You've got to be using a strand weapon, right? Strand weapon, solar build. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. Bear with me. Let's briefly touch on column 5 before we go on to anything else. I'll grab Solo Operative to an extra 15% damage buff if you're running solo. If you're not running solo, then it kind of doesn't make any sense. If I'm in a fire team, I'll be running Razor Precision or Argent Ordnance, depending on what I'm using, whether Razor Precision if I'm using more precision weapons, and Argent Ordnance if I'm using something like a rocket launcher, which I've been doing more and more recently, obviously, because Dragon's Breath's out. Now, the other perk I'm going to grab is Horde Shuttle. And that's a bit of an odd one too, because again, it's strand. It states that unraveled targets sometimes spawn a threadling, which, again, strand, solar. So let's bring it all together then, shall we? Because there's quite a lot going on. From the ability side of thing, the loop is throw the grenade, get your Roaring Flame stacks up, and then you go town with your bonk hammer and make things explode. If things don't die quite well, you go and finish them, and then they explode again. And like I said before, even if you lose your hammer, or it gets stolen off you by a barrier champ, or it happens to go, I don't know, somewhere like off a cliff or something, something completely out of your control.
Say, Titan, have you lost your hammer? That's okay. With our patented Roaring Flames, you can now have all the explosions even without your friend. That's right. Now you too can have all-powered melee ability of the throwing hammer, even if one of your enemies does end up sidestepping away as you throw your hammer, and you definitely didn't lose it off a cliff. Roaring Flames from Sunbreaker.
You can still, as long as you have those Roaring Flame stacks, punch stuff and make them explode as well. That still counts as a powered melee. One thing I will say with this build is definitely use or take advantage of using rebinding your charged and uncharged melee to different buttons. So currently I've got my charged melee on R1 and uncharged on circle, so that I can have a choice of whether I throw my hammer or whether I just punch something in the face, right? As far as stats for the build goes, it's a classic Titan thing of grab 100 Brazil, grab high recovery, grab high discipline, that whole jazz. You don't really need anything else too specific. You could go higher strength if you think you might lose your hammer, but again, I believe in you, you're not going to do it. As far as weapons go, I think using a classic soul weapon, always a good choice. Something like Sunshot, especially this season, is just off the chain. It's crazy fun. However, there is another way to do this. Currently in Iron Banner, or next in Iron Banner, there is a new weapon out, a strand auto rifle called Lethal Abundance, which has a new perk in its third column, I believe, and it's called Slice, which states that after using your class ability, then you can apply Sever to, I think it's up to 5 targets, it's 5 bullets. So for the next 5 bullets, after you use your class ability, things are severed, which means that they do 40% less damage to you, which is significant, and that really helps. And now I can hear what you're thinking, but I don't want to play Iron Banner. It's boring, it's just annoying. It is the second weapon up on Salad Fingers' inventory of weapons, so it's really easy to grab. I think it only took me 4 matches, and I didn't even win those, to get it. And then every Iron Banner engram you get after that, then you can focus at Saladin as well. So it's really easy to get one with this one here, Slice, Onslaught, really good. Also, you could just use Quicksilver Storm, which again is ridiculously good. However, having Lethal Abundance does mean that you free up your exotic slot for something like Hothead at the moment, which is really good. As far as mods go, there's nothing too critical for the build. I like to run with the usual like Reaper on the class mod. One that I always love to use is Proximity Ward, which gives you a 200 HP overshield when you're finishing an enemy, which is always really helpful because it just makes you again a little bit more survivable. You're going to be in there, and hopefully when you cause that explosion from the finisher, then things around you will be pushed away. Something like a melee damage resist on your chest piece is always good. Hands-on on helmet, just to get more super energy. We're going to be killing stuff with melee a lot, so it'd be prudent to grab something like that. I've also got on my class mod Restorative Finisher, so using stacks on stacks and charged up, we're getting a bunch of armor charges, so might as well use them somehow. I'm using Restorative Finisher and Grenade Kickstart just for the 2 bumps. Restorative Finisher, we're going to be finishing things anyway, so we might as well be using the finisher to get something else out of it, and that gives you 50% extra cooldown to whichever your least cooldown ability is, so it's kind of just free at that time. Also grab Solar and Strand Dual Siphon on your helmet as well, so that we're going to be using Stolar and Strand weapons. We might as well be getting some orbs that way as well. Just another way of acquiring orbs, basically. So when you're using your weapons, a great way to do it is to throw down your barricade, use it as cover, pop a few things with some sever on them. Now the great thing about this next bit is that, as you can see here, when you cause the explosion with Sanc Enclosure, it actually spreads that sever to other enemies. You can see the green glow on these other ones in the background. These are now severed, even though I haven't applied it via my weapon. So it's applied it on the Severance explosion, which is really nice. It's just a free way of getting sever on things around you that now can do less damage to you. The thing I haven't tried yet, and I think works, is if you have Unraveling Rounds and you apply sever through Slice. So we have both, we've got a way of doing both of those in this build. Also, you can get it with other builds as well. The great thing about that is that that spreads as well, and then the other enemies then have a chance to spawn Threadlings through Horde Shuttle as well. I believe that works. I haven't tested it myself yet, because obviously I've not got enough XP to grab that last set of perks, but I'm going to try it soon, and I will leave it in the comments below just if it works or not. So that's kind of like the main run through. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. It's a fun build. It's a bit finicky to get the hang of. The explosions are quite fun though, because everything goes flying up into the air if they don't actually die from the explosion. it's great fun. Always worth seeing them going flying. So yeah, see how you go with this. Like I say, it's a bit tricky to do. I've had fun with it in the coil recently. That's been where I've been using it most. I would like it instead of, like, if things didn't just go straight up on the explosion when they don't die, if they went out a bit as well, that'd be quite nice if there's a bit of knockback. But, you know, you can't have everything. See how it goes. Let me know if it is good for you. If it's not, look, let's have a talk about it and we'll try and retweak it. You know, it might work. Feel free to, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comments below. Also, feel free to drop by the Discord server as well and ask questions there. I'm always happy to answer. There's lots of cool people there. Just come by and say hi. I'll be posting all my update videos in there as well, so, you know, it's always good fun. Until the next video then, I'm Gio, Kaki Turner, Kia Tafai. Stay safe, be kind, and I will see you next time. Thanks for stopping by.